Good morning, students. Let's start the session with a new lesson. Before we get started with the new lesson, let me introduce 5 new words. Let's learn 5 new words for the day. It's called one word substitution. The phrase is given. You have to choose the word, the answer in a word. A group of people hired to applaud a performer or public speaker. Normally, the politicians hire people to show the crowd to society or to their opponents. So, the phrase is a group of people hired to applaud a performer or public speaker. The answer is clique. Example is given. No wonder the loudest applause came from the clique. Second one, a funeral procession. It's a common sight in our day-to-day life. We call it a funeral procession. For this, we have a single word in English. The answer is cortege. Sample, he took off his cap as the cortege passed. So, cortege is a funeral procession. Third one, a great lover of books. The one who reads a lot of books or the one who loves to read books is called bibliophile. Roy loves everything about books. He is a real bibliophile. Bibliophile is the lover of books. One who does not take any alcoholic drink. The one who refrains himself from drinking alcohol is called teetotaler. It's a common word. Most of you may know this word. Derek, as a teenager, was an athlete, a non-smoker, and a teetotaler. Teetotaler is the person who refrains himself from drinking alcoholic beverages. Rhetorically exploit ordinary people for political purposes. Rhetorically means the person who is good at speaking. The person has the ability or the talent to attract people through his speech. So normally politicians win the hearts of the commoners or the citizens by their speech. It's called demagogue. The demagogue has won people's support, or the politician has won the people's support through his rhetorics, through his speech. It's called demagogue. So today we have learned 5 words: clique, cortege, bibliophile, teetotaler, demagogue. Now let's get started with the lesson. The title of the lesson is Zigzag, written by Asha Nehemiah. Asha Nehemiah is a contemporary writer. Who is a contemporarian? The one who belongs to the age. Here, Asha Nehemiah is a contemporary writer and 58 years old. She was born in Chennai, studied and worked in 8 different cities and small towns, and is now a resident of Bangalore. She has always been interested in writing. Her love for reading led her to study English literature in college. She wanted to become a teacher, but now she's a freelance writer. Humor, fantasy, mystery, and adventure are the strong elements in her work. She loves baking, walking, reading, and traveling. Now, let's move on to the lesson. The title of the lesson is Zigzag, written by Asha Nehemiah. Let me introduce the characters, the important characters in the lesson. The first one is Dr. Ashok T. Krishnan. He's a pediatrician. His wife's name is not given, but she is called as Mrs. Krishnan. She's a painter. Then they have a 9-year-old daughter. Her name is Maya, and she has an older brother. His name is Arvind, and their maid is Lakshmi. So Ashok, Dr. Ashok, his wife, Maya, their daughter, Aravind, their son, and a maid, Lakshmi. Then they have a friend, family friend. His name is Somu. He is also a doctor. Now he leaves for Alaska. Before he leaves for Alaska, Uncle Somu requests Dr. Ashok to keep his pet with them. So the Uncle Somu's cook's name is Vishu. Vishu has come to hand over the pet Zigzag to the family, Dr. Ashok's family. Now, all about Zigzag. The bird Zigzag is a harmless, unusual, and lovable bird. In the beginning, Dr. Ashok receives a call from his friend Somu. Then there is a conversation between husband and wife, Dr. Ashok Krishnan and Mrs. Krishnan. Now, Dr. Somu says he leaves for Alaska. Since he leaves for Alaska, he wishes Dr. Ashok to keep the pet Zigzag with them. Immediately, there are a lot of assumptions. Maya says Zigzag is a poisonous spitting spider. No, sorry, beetle. Arun says it's a sidewinder. Sidewinder, a snake. A venomous North American snake. Seeing now, the girl is telling it's a venomous spider or venomous beetle. Boy is telling it's a venomous snake. Seeing the horrifying facial expression of Mrs. Krishnan, Dr. Ashok intervened and explained them that it's a beautiful and lovable bird. Now Mrs. Krishnan reacts against Uncle Somu's gift. Now she's horrified, but immediately the children defend Uncle Somu and praise him for his unique gifts. Mrs. Krishnan says once he bought a mosquito eating plant, but it needs a room heater to stay alive in Chennai temperature. In Chennai temperature, the plant needs a room heater. Maya glorifies his snake, his shark's tooth blade. So he has gifted the fish shark's tooth blade. She glorifies about that gift, but the mother teases her for misusing it. She says, you cut using that blade, you cut 3 skirts and 2 pairs of jeans. Aravind reminds her about his native boomerang from Australia. Once he brought a native boomerang from Australia and gifted to Aravind. His mother encounters him with the damages he made with that boomerang. He says, with that you cut the aerials of the TV aerials of many houses, you damaged many cars and you hit a watchman with that boomerang. But Dr. Ashok said the bird could speak 21 different languages, mostly African languages. So when Mrs. Ashok heard that the bird could speak 21 languages, somewhat she is convinced. Now let's read the first part of the lesson. Ashok T. Krishnan's clinic usually sounded more like an ancient Chinese torture chamber. What is an ancient Chinese torture chamber? It is the name of the movie released in 1994. It's a black comedy. There, a couple committed a crime. So to make them confess that crime, they tortured the couple. So when someone tortures us, how we scream. So Dr. Ashok is a pediatrician. Just imagine how the children would scream when the children see the doctor and a clinic. So his clinic is called as an ancient Chinese torture chamber. This was because the tiny children who were his patients left out a variety of blood-curdling yells, screaming. They were making horrifying screams and ear-splitting sobs. See the phrases, blood-curdling yells, ரத்தத்தை உறைய வைக்கிற yells and ear splitting but screaming sobs. It's all because my patients were making so much noise and crying so loudly. He apologized to his wife one evening. Now there's a conversation between husband and wife that Somu couldn't hear me properly. So he received a call from Somu. Because of this blood-curdling and ear-splitting sobs, Somu couldn't hear properly what Dr. Ashok responded to his request. Somu couldn't hear me properly. He rang me in the clinic to ask whether he could keep Zigzag with us when he leaves for Alaska. So Dr. Somu leaves for Alaska. Before that, he places a request. And now Somu thinks I said yes, even though I clearly said no. Somu thought he said yes, but this doctor said no. I know you are busy. He is now convincing his wife. I know you are busy getting your painting ready for your exhibition next week. Zigzag interrupted their 9-year-old daughter Maya. The word zigzag fell in the ears of Maya. Isn't that Uncle Somu's prized giant green and gold fighting beetle? Uncle Somu's, yes. Now she's asking about the beetle. The one that spits deadly poison straight into its opponent's eye? So what is the quality of the beetle? It spits poisonous venom or venomous substance in the eyes of the opponent. No, corrected her older brother Arvind, eyes shining in pure delight. The beetle is called Spitfire. Zigzag must be Uncle Somu's pet snake. The American sidewinder. You know, the one that slithers zigzag all over his house. Girl is telling it's a Spitfire. Boy is telling no, it's not the beetle. It is a snake. It's a poisonous snake from North America. The name of the snake is Sidewinder. So when the mother hears their conversation, just imagine how would be the facial expression of the mother. Immediately the father intervenes. You are both quite mistaken. Their father hastened to explain. Seeing his wife's horrified expression, the father was in a hurry to pacify his wife by saying something. No, 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 you both are mistaken. It is not. It is not a spitfinder nor a sidewinder or a snake. Zigzag is a most harmless, unusual, and lovable bird. Apparently, it was bred by a genuine African witch doctor. Who is African witch doctor? Normally, in remote villages or among tribes, we have witch doctor. The people would bring their children or the patients to witch doctor to treat the patient traditionally. Their traditional healers are known as witch doctors. They will have magical powers and they would have herbs to treat the patients. So, apparently, it was bred by a genuine African witch doctor who gifted it to Somu when he, being a child specialist like me, cured the witch doctor's son while he was touring the deepest jungles of equatorial Africa last month. So, last month, Somu got the chance to cure a witch doctor's son. The witch doctor gifted him a rare bird. Somu says the bird is an absolute treasure and a real help. It's his favorite pet, you know. So the bird is an absolute treasure and his favorite pet. Now let's see the reaction of his wife. Somu might be your best friend, but most of these so-called favorite possessions that he has given us were absolute nuisance, countered Mrs. Krishnan angrily. A talented artist, she's an artist. She applied a dab. Means she is giving the final touch of yellow ochre paint, yellow or red paint onto her painting titled Sunset at Marina. So the title of her painting is Sunset at Marina. Paused for a moment to survey the effect and then continued. Remember the rare insect eating plant he brought back from the wettest corner of the Amazonian rainforest. Once he brought a plant, insect eating plant. He insisted that we keep it because it would eat the mosquitoes in the house. And now that wretched plant, okay, that wretched plant requires a room heater to keep it alive in Chennai. See, in this climate, it needs a room heater. Wretched means that bad plant. Ma, protested Arvind. That's not really true. Uncle Somu is given us some really fabulous gifts, some notable gifts. Now the children are defending Uncle Somu. Right. Remember the tiny pen knife he gave me last year? The one with the genuine shark's tooth blade. See the fish shark's tooth blade. That's been really useful. Maya joined the protest. No one but you, Maya. Now she teases. Mrs. Krishnan teases the girl. No one but you, Maya, Mrs. Krishnan told her daughter sternly, firmly, would describe a penknife that has cut open the pockets of 3 skirts. Using that knife, you cut open 3 pockets, 3 skirts, and 2 pairs of jeans as really useful. So you spoiled 3 skirts and 2 pairs of jeans, so it's really useful to you. And what about the aboriginal boomerang Uncle Somu brought us all the way from Australia? Aboriginal means native boomerang, demanded Arvind. You can't deny that. It was a great hit with everyone. He's telling the boomerang is really a great hit. Now again she teases. She encounters the boy with so many explanations. Yeah, great hit indeed. Mrs. Krishnan didn't bother to hide her sarcasm, mocking, insult, and continued, considering that the boomerang sliced through all the TV aerials in the neighborhood, caused permanent damage to several cars in the parking slot, and knocked out our watchman cold with the force you threw it. See, with that boomerang, you spoiled many aerials in all the TV aerials in the neighborhood, and you damaged many cars. Now even you hit the watchman with this boomerang. So it's really a great help to you. But Zigzag is different. Father says we are sure to love Zigzag. Somehow he tries to convince the family because the bird can talk and sing in about 21 different languages, mostly African languages, of course. When it sings, it moves the listeners to tears. It could speak 21 languages, and when it sings, we will all be filled with tears. For that, Mrs. Krishnan responds. It's Somu's thoughtless ways that reduce me to tears. Yeah, I know. So Somu's gifts are always the reason to have tears. Mrs. Krishnan said irritably, annoyingly. What a time to dump this multilingual talking bird on us when he is going to hand it over to us. Here I am tied up in knots. Tied up in knots means I am working hard. It's a phrase, tied up in knots. I am working hard trying to get my paintings together for the exhibition next week. May I take Zigzag to school, Pa? Arvind, as always, was planning ahead. I want to display him in the science exhibition. So he wants to exhibit the bird in the science expo. Uncle Somu's cook Vishu brings the bird. Now let me explain the bird to you. It's a foot and off tall. Head is a bald head bordered with pink feathers, and its feathers are in various colors. Feathers or plumage are in various colors. Beak in sunflower yellow color, and eyes are brown in color, just like cola. So Arvind offers a plate full of nuts and fruits to the bird to change its sulky and angry mood. Now the bird is little bit strange to the place, so it is angry and in a sulky mood. Zigzag sat on chandelier and blades of the fan. It started eating the nuts and fruits. The leftover is on the blades of the fan. It was reluctant to utter even a single word. Sitting on a curtain rod, after eating fruits and nuts, it is sitting on the curtain rod and it fell asleep. Now it starts snoring. In the beginning, it was just like rumbling with deep sounds. Okay, let's read. When is Zigzag coming, Papa? Maya was jumping up and down, all excited. Uncle Somu said he would send Zigzag with his old cook Vishu sometimes today. I'll have to leave for my clinic now. There, he added as the doorbell rang, that's probably them. And indeed it was. So, Vishu with the bird enters the house. Come in, Zigzag. Come in, dear, coaxed Vishu. And it tottered the strangest, weirdest looking bird the Krishnan's family had ever seen. So the bird is the strangest one, strange one. Weirdest means strange looking bird. About a foot and a half tall, its bald head, there is no hair on its head, was fringed, fringe means bordered, with a crown of shocking pink feathers, while the rest of its plumage means feathers, was in various shades of the muddiest, sluggiest brown. Its curved beak was sunflower yellow, so beak is yellow in color, and its eyes were the color of cola. Cola means brown, held to sunlight. So it's not an attractive bird by description. This is Zigzag, announced Vishu with a flourish, with all excitement. His full name is Zigzag, King of the Tonga.
Zigzag, the King of the Tonga.
How I am going to miss him. So beautifully. Vishu now praises the bird. So beautifully he talks. He can even recite French poetry. And the object of all this praise was standing cool and unmoved with an expression of almost human grumpiness in his cola-colored eyes. The cook was praising the bird, but there is no reaction in the bird. Arvind, finding that Zigzag was sulkily angrily refusing to say a word despite all their effort at striking a conversation, dashed into the kitchen to return with a plate heaped hurriedly with juicy fruit slices and some nuts. This boy thought the bird might be hungry, so he rushed to the kitchen and came with a bowl full of fruits and nuts. Bold-eyed brightened momentarily as Zigzag picked up a walnut. But refusing to speak, he dropped one wrinkled eyelid in a solemn wink and flew clumsily to deposit the nut on the enormous chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Now it took a walnut and it sat on the chandelier, the light hanging from the ceiling. Bit by bit and in total silence, all the fruit on the plate was transferred to the chandelier and onto the blades of the ceiling fan. Now fan is switched off. Fan is not working, it is off. So the bird transferred every nut and fruit. Perched means sat on the chandelier or on the blades of the fan and ate. Then perching comfortably on the curtain rod, Zigzag dropped one wizened eyelid. Wizened means a wrinkled eyelid in another solemn wink as he sank his beak into a plump goa. Now slowly he is just winking its eyelids and it eats goa. Don't worry children, Vishu comforted as he left. noticing how disappointed they looked when Zigzag stubbornly refused to say a single word to them, even though they tried speaking to him in English, Hindi, Tamil, and French. So they tried many languages, but the bird didn't even utter a single word. Just wait till Zigzag settles down in this new house. Then you can have a great time listening to him. As it happened, the children didn't have to wait more than 10 minutes to have a great time listening to Zigzag. For as soon as Visu left, Zigzag, still perched on the curtain rod, went off to sleep. And the moment he fell asleep, he began to snore. Now, after having the nuts and fruits, it fell asleep. In the beginning, he began to snore. And what a snore it was! Kungwis. It began as a soft, grumbly sort of rumble. Rumble means deep voice, like a murmuring with a deep voice, much like that which the stomach of a mildly hungry dinosaur might have made. In the beginning, it was like the hungry dinosaur's murmur or grumbling sound. At this juncture, the snoring was heavy and pounding their eardrum and caused headache. Maya says the scientific truth is the birds don't snore, and she sprays water on the bird. Aravind imitates like a raging lion, ferocious dog, and made a coyote call. Their maid screamed when she saw the fruits falling off the fan. The orange pulp, rained with the black seeds, hit all over Mrs. Krishnan's unfinished masterpiece. The neighbors called them and requested them to quiet the bird. Now let me read. Then it grew louder and louder and louder until it sounded as if a herd of elephants with gold was trumpeting angrily in the room. King Ravi's zigzag snore pounded their eardrums till their heads ached. In a vain did they try to wake the snoring bird. 21 languages he's supposed to know, snorted Mrs. Krishnan. Yet this bird chooses to communicate only in Snorish, Snories, Snorian, Snorihili, Snoralu. I thought it was a scientific fact that the birds couldn't snore, said Maya, trying to squirt means sprinkle or spray water from a small water pistol at Zigzag to wake him and wetting most of the curtains, the walls, and the sofa instead. African witch doctors, birds don't obey scientific rules. Aravind was annoyed that his best imitations of a raging lion, like a lion, an angry lion, a hungry hyena, and a ferocious means aggressive and violent, a dog, ferocious dog, had failed to draw Zigzag out of his deep slumber. Slumber means deep sleep. Now he tried his loudest, most frightening coyote call. Coyote means the wild dog, wolf like wild dog. But Zigzag slept on undisturbed and snored on in total despair at their failure to wake Zigzag or at least stop them snoring. They shut themselves in the bedroom that was furthest away from Mrs. Krishnan's studio, where Zigzag was creating the terrible din. Mrs. Krishnan was just unraveling a roll of cotton wool to stuff in her ears when they heard their maid Lakshmi shrieking, screaming as if she had been electrocuted. So the name of the maid is Lakshmi. She's screaming when she saw the fruits falling off the fan. Hearts hammering, they rushed to the studio to find Lakshmi dancing and clapped her hands excitedly as she yelled, "We've been blessed. We've been truly blessed. It's raining papayas and bananas in this room." They froze in horror. Lakshmi had apparently switched on the fan on which Zigzag had left some fruit and nuts. Half-pecked fruit streamed off the fan, dampening even Lakshmi's enthusiasm as a guava landed on her cheek with a soft squish, soft hit, and one walnut hit her forehead with a loud smack. One slice of overripe papaya came whizzing off with a sound off the fan, and as they watched it helplessly, horror, splattered all over Mrs. Krishnan's unfinished masterpiece, Sunset at Marina, spreading streaks of gooey, rainy orange pulp and shiny black seeds all over it. The papaya came and hit her drawing with all seeds. Mrs. Krishnan groaned tragically and looked readily to shoot Zigzag, but he was saved by the telephone bell. They answered one call after another as all the neighbors rang and to demand what the awful kicked every sound was, and if they could please have some peace. And through all this commotion, Zigzag slept on unconcerned and snored on. So even the neighbors ring up and tell them to quiet the bird. Now it spoiled the entire place. Lashmi screamed when she saw the fruits, half-eaten fruits, falling off the fan. It spoiled her the Mrs. Krishnan's drawing. But the bird is still sleeping with a loud snore. Finally, an exhausted Mrs. Krishnan rang up her husband and going crazy with the sound of Zigzag snoring, plus all these angry telephone calls and my beautiful painting. Here her voice cracked. You know, Mrs. Jinjinwala, the art critic who lives upstairs, well, she heard Zigzag snoring and had the cheek to telephone and ask me whether I should sing a little softly when I took my singing lessons. Please contact Somu and find out what we should do. Now she tries to sack the bird. Dr. Krishnan mailed Somu immediately and asked how to control Zigzag's snore. Dr. Krishnan came home as fast as he could after he had left an email message to Somu asking him for clear instruction on how to stop Zigzag from snoring. Don't worry, he assured his downcast family. Downcast family, now the family is worried and upset, so he is just consoling them. Somu will reply soon, and we will discover there is some ridiculous, simple way to stop Zigzag from snoring. 6 days fast. 6 frantic days. Frantic means hectic, hopeless days of checking their email day and night. 6 torturous days of having the deafening loud Kingrewish resound in their home, most nerve-wrackingly, most painfully. Nerve-wrackingly means most painfully. Maya complained that she heard a permanent rumbling sound, ringing sound in her ears, even when she was miles away from home, and that her ears ached all the time. She is having a ringing sound all the time, even when she is away from home. Arvind confessed that for the first time in his life, he was actually looking forward to going to school, considering it was as calm as a monastery compared to their house. Now, this boy, first time in his life, wants to stay in the school 24/7. School is a quiet and the place is like a monastery, the sage's dwelling place compared to the house. Mrs. Krishnan had lost interest in painting. Zigzag would sometimes wake up briefly when he wanted to eat some fruit, and sometimes he would sit on the veranda looking sulky, angry, and bored as he stared at the sunset at Marina Beach. The real view, not the painting lying forlorn in one corner, ruined by streaks of hardening papaya. Zigzag never spoke to anyone, though everyone tried several times and in several languages to speak to him kindly. He only slept and snored. Several languages have been used to make the bird speak, but all in vain. On the seventh day, Dr. Somu's email arrived. It was, as Krishnan predicted, ridiculously simple. It read, Love Somu. If you are finding it difficult, ask my cook Vishu to keep Zigzag. I never heard Zigzag snore. In fact, Zigzag hardly ever sleeps. That does it, said Mrs. Krishnan. Fine, Vishu. I will not keep Zigzag here any another minute. Calm down, dear. I am leaving for my clinic now. Can't it wait till? No, it's now. Mrs. Krishnan was adamant. I've invited some friends and are experts to come home and choose my paintings for the exhibition. This feathered, snoring monster will drive us all mad. Come on then, Zigzag, called Dr. Krishnan nervously, wondering how he would locate Somu's cook, Visu. Here, why don't you wait in the car, Zigzag? He suggested. When they reached his clinic, his heart sinking at the thought of Zigzag's ear-shattering loud snore adding to the din of the sobs and shrieks produced by the tiny patients waiting for him. But Ziggy king of the Tonga, was not accustomed to being kept waiting and was already making his way to the clinic where he perched himself on the nurse reception table. He told the bird to stay in the car, but Zigzag doesn't have the habit of waiting for anyone. So the next moment it reached the clinic, sat on the nurse's table. Don't you dare sleep, Dr. Christian warned Zigzag fiercely as he went towards his room. He had hardly walked through the swinging off door that separated his clinic from the waiting room when he heard a strange voice say, "You there in the blue t-shirt, don't jump on the sofa. And you in the red dress, don't swing on the curtain." It was Zigzag's voice, clear and commanding. There was pin drop silence in the room as everyone waited open mouthed for Zigzag's next sentence. Dr. Krishnan was amazed. Gone was Zigzag's snore and grumpy expression. Grumpy means that a deep expression. Instead, the bird looked happy and alert as it went about the job it had been trained for. First with the African witch doctor and then with Dr. Somo. Dr. Krishnan's clinic, usually a noisy sea of tears and tantrums. Tantrums means outburst of cry or anger, was transferred into a calm, orderly place as Zigzag efficiently soothed the frightened patients. It comforted or it convinced the frightened patients, scolded the naughty ones, scolded the children who were jumping up and down, and made the crying ones smile. And if this digging sound and recitation of French poetry reduced the children to helpless laughter instead of tears, rather than crying, they started laughing to hear his yam digging song, recitation of French poetry. And best of all, Zigzag never slept or snored, even for a second. Never had a morning passed so quietly and peacefully for Dr. Krishnan. This is the first day in his life in clinic. Went on smoothly and peacefully. When the last patient had left, he called Zigzag to his room. Zigzag flew in and sat on the table. Scratching the bird under its beak, Dr. Krishnan sighed. Sighed means taking a deep breath, permuchudrathu, and said, "Somu was right after all. You are an absolute treasure. I never realized what he meant when he called you a great help." Somu said, "You are a great help. You are an absolute treasure." That time I didn't realize, but today I learned how incredible you are. Why didn't you tell me you'd prefer to be at my clinic instead of snoring like that to show you are bored? What do we do now? No one wants you back at home now. They want me to leave you with Vishu. Just then the telephone rang. He's telling, "My family members don't want you. What can I do? But you are an absolute treasure for me. You are a friend in need. How can I leave you? But my family doesn't want you." That time he receives a phone call. It was Mrs. Krishnan, sounding very pleased with herself. Now finally, the art critic bought Mrs. Krishnan's painting for rupees 5,000. She loved Mrs. Krishnan's new technique of painting. Now Mrs. Krishnan wishes to keep the bird with them. Dr. Krishnan called the bird a genius. The bird in turn winked at him. The last part, let me read. "You know Mrs. Jinjunwala, the art critic?" She chuckled. She smiled. "She doesn't want me to exhibit sunset at Marina. She has bought it for herself for rupees 5,000. Isn't that the painting for Papaya fell on?" Doctor's asking. "Is that the painting on which Papaya fell on?" Yes, Mrs. Krishnan was laughing heartily now. The lady, Mrs. Krishnan, is now delighted. She's overjoyed. I had left it in one corner and she chose to buy it, saying she loved my new technique of painting. She simply adored those streaky orange bits. Streaky means lines of orange bits. She launched into fresh gales of laughter. "By the way," she said, when she sobered down. Now she's serious. When she sobered down, "I don't think we were fair to Zigzag. Shall we keep him with us at home? Just on trial for another week." The girl is now pleading him to keep the bird for a week as a trial. "Sure," agreed a delighted Dr. Krishnan before he cleverly added, "and I could always take him to the clinic every morning so that you can paint in peace at home. So every morning I will take him to clinic, evening I will bring it home." My boy, it's an astonishment. Okay, he confided to Zigzag after matters were satisfactorily settled, giving the bird a toffee from his desk. He secretly said, "See, the things are all settled," and he gifted a toffee to the bird. "You have your strange way of showing your genius." He addresses the bird a genius. "You have your own strange qualities to express your genius. A zigzag way, I'd call it. Wouldn't you?" But Ziggy Zaga, king of the Tonga, brought up on compliments as he was, didn't bother to reply. It didn't affect the bird much. He just ate the toffee, paper wrapper and all, then lowered one crinkly eyelid. Crinkly means many folds eyelid in a knowing wink. It just winked at Dr. Ashok Krishna. So, what is the theme of the lesson? What do you learn? What lesson you learn from this story? An idle mind is the devil's workshop. An idler becomes a nuisance to others and to the society. On the other hand, everyone has innate quality in us. So, it is our duty to find out the interest and inherent talent in us. When we start working on it, there can nobody stop us. So, students, every one of us has innate ability, inherent talents. Kindly find out what interests you a lot. Go behind it. Catch hold of it. Then nobody can stop you except you. Thank you. Have a good day. Happy learning. Bye.